Sunset in Time by Albinocorn. Chapter 16 On Wings of Condemnation. The fog before her eyes dissipated into nothingness, filling the real world once more. Beams of light from the compartment lanterns hit Sunset's face and made her eyes sting in water. She sat up in bed, her messy hair forming a protective curtain from the glaring lights. She stretched and yawned, feeling well rested in spite of the vivid dream-walking she had partaken in last night. Brushing her mane back, she saw Twilight across the compartment, putting her saddlebags on. "Come on, bedhead," Twilight chuckled. "We're going to get some breakfast before our train leaves again." Sunset put her hoof to her stomach, aware of the roaring vacuum that demanded food. "Yeah, breakfast sounds good." Twilight walked over to another bed and poked a large lump nestling beneath the blankets. "Come on, Rainbow, it's breakfast time." "Are we in the Crystal Empire yet?" A voice slurred. "No, we're in Huffington. We have a few hours before the train starts rolling again. You might want to eat something now because it's a long ride to Talltale." There was a drawn-out pause in the lump that did nothing. Then a blue hoof emerged from its cocoon, followed closely by a body that rolled onto the floor. Rainbow lay there for a second before standing up, smacking her lips loudly. "Guess I'm not the only one who is in a morning party," Sunset said as she tried to tame her mane with her hoof. Twilight rolled her eyes. "Please. Rainbow has trouble getting up no matter what time of the day it is." Rainbow yawned. "I'll think I'll come back after I eat something." "Come on. Everyone's waiting for us outside." Twilight led the way down to the train, though while they walked, Sunset couldn't help but wonder why all the lights had been left on. Twilight had said it was morning, right? She got her answer when they stepped outside. The sky was a deep blue, patchwork with large puffy clouds. However, the sun itself was obscured by a large mountain face the village took refuge under. An immense sow blanketed the ground, keeping an entire town and some of the surrounding woodlands in its grass. Everyone met up at the platform exit and exchanged good mornings. No enthusiastic pony before heading off to town. Huffington reminded Sunset of Ponyville in many ways. Thatched roofs, white stone buildings, cobblestone streets, and ponies peddling their wares on the main thoroughfare. The atmosphere was subtly different, though. It didn't have that same open feeling that Ponyville had been given Sunset. Perhaps it was because of the dreary shadow he was constantly walking in. They entered a small tavern and squeezed into the largest booth they could find. Unable to fit comfortably, Rarity pulled an empty table and a few extra chairs over. Waiters approached when they settled in and took their order, happily accommodating anything for Twilight. They entered a small tavern and squeezed into the largest booth they could find. Unable to fit comfortably, Rarity pulled up an empty table a few chairs over. Waiters approached and they were all settled in and took their order, happily to accommodate anything for Twilight. Twilight visited when she told the waitress to put everything on the royal tab after everyone put on their order. When the mayor left, Twilight slumped in her seat, sighed, and leaned on her chin on a hoof. "Remind me to make personal trips to each pony and place we freeloaded off of." Spike gave her a confident thumbs up. Sunset hated to imagine what they would have done for food, board, and transportation without Twilight's princess's status. Scavenging for food, tucking themselves into the warmest alleys and caves they could find, and dragging themselves through the wilderness of Equestria. Maybe they could have just asked Princess Celestia to borrow money. Though Sunset wasn't sure if Spike was able to burp up solid gold. Conversation was limited, leaving Sunset to continuously reflect over what she had seen last night. The scenes repeating in her head over and over again, along with one crucial word: Mother. This other Sunset had latched onto Celestia, wanted to be accepted as family. At its root, it was a simple and pure wish. Sunset couldn't imagine her life without her mom and dad. Yet the wish was drowned in obsession and desire. The other Sunset hadn't just loved Celestia. She coveted her, wanted her all to herself. The idea baffled Sunset. If the Sunset from her memories loved Celestia so much, then where does this raging inferno of hate spawn from? The past Sunset held Celestia on the highest pedestal. That Sunset was the same one from the cave. What had happened between her and Celestia? And where did she herself fit into all this? Questions swam around in her head, making her even more confused than before she had gone dreamwalking. She glanced over at Twilight, who was engaged in polite conversation with Applejack. since it required their tearful discussion last night. Knew it was a bad idea to keep all of this to herself. So you had to tell Twilight, tell all of them what she had discovered. But she knew she needed the whole story first. There was little point in dragging everyone else to her confusion. Sunset ate her breakfast with gusto, having only had hospital food in the last 24 hours. She was the second to finish her ham and spinach omelet, coming in right after Pinkie, who had practically inhaled her food. Aside from the utensils scraping against the plates and the occasional slurp, breakfast was a quiet affair. Nice change of pace after someone's madness. "Do you know how much time we have before the train leaves?" Rarity asked politely when their meal was complete. "I wouldn't mind taking a quick tour of Huffington while we're here." Twilight shook her head. "No time for sightseeing. The train's supposed to leave at 11. She craned her neck over the booth to look at the clock on the wall that read 10:30. "In fact, we should be heading back right now." They pushed out their chairs and filed out of the tavern, each of them thanking the waitress as they left. The shadows outside reclined with the climbing sun, only by a small margin. More ponies were milling about, leisurely about their day. "Well, it's probably for a base anyway," Epsec said. "The last time was spent in one place, the less of a chance we have of running into you-know-who." Wait, don't tell me. I know this one," Pinkie said, tapping a hoof against her head. "Oh, super good with magic, really evil, starts with a V. Vespa Radiance," Rarity hissed. "Oh, then I must be thinking of something else." Rainbow took Pinkie's head and jerked it in the direction everyone else was looking in. Pinkie then let out a large gasp and jumped backwards. Vesper stood in the middle of the road, black cloak still wrapped around her. All of her past injuries, however, seemed to have disappeared. "I told you before, that isn't my name." She paused and looked softly into space. "Though I suppose it has a nice ring to it. Poetic almost." "You!" Rainbow jumped into the air, crunching slightly at the birds on her back, and dove at Vesper, only to go straight through her. The image rippled and faded out for a moment before correcting itself. "Did you really think I'd let you take another shot at me? This is just a projection, Featherbrain." Rainbow rolled around and bared her teeth. "What? Too scared to face us again in person?" Vesper held her back by extending a hoof. "Don't worry, Rainbow Dash. Your depths will soon come soon enough. But honestly, why don't we try selling this to Philly first? I'm sure we're all reasonable ponies." "Reasonable?" Sunset said, outraged. "You tried to kill us on 5 separate occasions so far. You've turned 3 ponies into brainless puppets, and you folded up and practically tortured Fluttershy." Vesper held her gaze for a moment, face unreadable. "Why is it every time you open your mouth, my hatred grows for you ever stronger? This little intimidation of me that you're doing is really quite insulting. Hurtful, in fact. I insist until you learn how to be me better, you shut up!" Her eyes drifted over to Twilight. "Besides, I really was just talking to the princess." Twilight looked at her chin. "Why should I listen to anything you have to say?" "Because, Twilight Sparkle, I have a deal to offer you. It'd be wise to hear it out before you shoot me down. Give me the Tempest Crown. Never." Vesper waved a hoof. "You didn't let me finish. Give me Tempest Crown and little wannabe over there." Twilight's frown twisted to a snarl. "Or I'll blow Huffington to pieces." Vesper finished with a skip. "What?" Twilight reeled back. "You're bluffing." "Oh no, I assure you. My threat is quite real." Vesper turned her head to the mountain. Right now, there's an airship full of wide-range explosives docked just on the other side of the mountain peak. With one command, I can move it into position and have to draw it over this pitiful little dirt town. She leaned forward, fell a grin on her face. "How's that sound, Your Highness? I think a smoldering crater might actually be an improvement." "Lost disgustingly no, even for some pony like you," Rarity said with contempt. "Well, it could all be avoided rather easily. The fair princess does host over what I asked for. Honestly, a little trinket and 1 pony is a much compared to all of these innocent lives." Vesper gestured to the surrounding town. A few ponies had stopped to view the developing scene from afar. What say you, princess? Twilight folded her ears back, and Arson darted rapidly between the sparse crowd, Vesper and Sunset. I. Oh no, you're right. This is a lot to just throw on you. Vesper said in a succinctly sweet tone. I'll tell you what. I'll give you till the stroke of noon to make your decision. She pointed out to the mountain. I'll be waiting in the summit cave. If you're not prompt, I might do something regrettable. Oh, and speaking of which, since we're gambling with so many lives, it's only fitting that every pony knows what's going on, right? Abstract raised an eyebrow. Will you? Vesper had already advanced, leaving the group momentarily confused until her face appeared above their heads, enlarged for the entire town to see it. Attention, Huffington! Her voice echoed. You may not be aware, but you have royalty among you. Princess Twilight Sparkle has graced you with her presence. However, she's in possession of a very dangerous artifact, as well as harboring a criminal who decided to masquerade as me. Now she stands in a precarious position of delivering both objects to the cavern near the summit of Smoky Mountain, or else a rogue airship will drop its hull bombs on you poor, defenseless village. Surely she would choose your lives over one insignificant pony in a crown, correct? I know you'll all help her make the right choice, seeing it's your lives on the line. She looked directly down at Twilight. Oh, and don't even think of contacting Celestia. I've got wards to alert me to any communications or attempts to escape. You can flee if you really want to. Just remember all the lies you'll be condemning if you do. Only an hour to go, dear princess. She gave one last malicious smile before her image vanished. Sunset winced. Finally realized just how hard she had been grinding her teeth. I don't care if she looks like me. I hear with every fiber of my being. Look, there she is! Sunset looked around, seeing the crowds beginning to circle them. More ponies looked frightened and angry, but Sunset could sense a desire to be rid of her. Princess, you must have her in, right? You can't let us die. Please, do something. Isn't she wanted by Princess Celestia anyway? The 7 ponies and dragon retreated until they were backed against one another, surrounded by all sides by a panicking mob. Twilight, you might want to do something before they get angry, Spike said with urgency. Twilight nodded and swallowed. She stomped her hoof on the ground, trying to get them to settle down. Everybody, please listen! I know you're all scared, but there's no reason to panic, she gestured to Sunset. This Sunset Simmer is not a criminal. It's just a setup by the mayor threatening you. That doesn't change the fact she's trying to kill us! Yeah, you can't pick her over all of us. Listen to Princess Celestia! No, you heard her. She'll just blow us up faster. As the mob began to close in on him, Twilight shouted, Please, calm down, every pony. I promise you, no one's going to get hurt. I won't let Huffington get destroyed, I promise. The crowd didn't seem completely relieved, but they began to disperse slowly, giving Twilight pleading looks as he turned away. Meanwhile, Twilight turned back to the group. And I'm not going to sell out my friends either, or give Vesper his crown. Well, Twilight, that doesn't give us a lot of options. Sunset said, You can't ask for help. If you refuse to do it, certain townsfolk will take it to their own hosts. I admire your confidence, but I think Vespa has us in check, Reddy said grimly. I sat down, closed her eyes. Yeah, maybe. Well, time out, Rainbow said, crossing her host. Can't give up that easily. No one said we were giving up, Rainbow, Twilight said quietly. Rainbow looked at her with bright eyes. Ha! I knew it! You gotta play it, right? Twilight shifted, biting her lip. Well, I got something. Something? Something's better than nothing. Yes, Twilight said slowly. But it's dangerous. Really dangerous. It requires a lot of luck. She looked at all of them with a determined gleam in their eyes. But it also requires all of us working together. This is something we do extremely well. We're all ears, Twilight, Fluttershy said with surprising confidence. Everyone nodded in agreement. Twilight beamed at him. Alright then, here's what we're going to do. They walked slowly, eating up as much time as they could. Twilight held a hoof against her eyes, plucking dust that had kicked up for another strong gust of wind. The sun had finally peeked over the mountain, but heavy clouds began to move, threatening to swallow up the entire sky. She could already feel the moisture in the air as the gray gloom circled overhead. Sea and Sunset trekked their way up the mountain path, their journey quickened by Twilight's familiarity with it. It seems like just yesterday she and her friends had climbed to her like looking at dragon and his polluted snoring. Their journey was a quiet one. Sunset gave Twilight furtive glances, otherwise said nothing. Twilight marched stoic and steadily, doing her best not to show fear or worry, hoping her plan would work. She realized she was asking for a lot. If everyone got out of this alive and he caught Vesper Radiance, it would be nothing short of a miracle. The mouth of the cave loomed as they crested the last slope. The inside no longer glittered with gold, all of it having been removed when the dragon migrated. Without the sparkling gleam of thousands of coins, the cave looked grim and foreboding. Twilight led Sunset into the maw, the light of day quickly fading behind them. Vesper was waiting at the back of the cave, along with Razor, looking quite smug. I knew it, Sunset murmured under her breath. Twilight sussed her and stepped her forward, quickly examining all of her surroundings. See, I told you she would come, Vesper. Razor, Vesper said, voice dripping with superiority. Of course you didn't have much of a choice, did you, princess? Those panicking little ponies down there would have forced your hoof one way or the other, make sure they saved themselves. But that's life, isn't it? Corners of her mouth folded into a sneer. Ponies are willing to sell each other out for their own survival. Toss their fellow equine away if it means they themselves can live to see tomorrow. Their lives nothing more than irons to barter and trade with. Right, Twilight? So much for friendship. You don't know anything about friendship, Twilight said skeezily. Behind her, the wind began to howl outside. The sun had been completely out, leaving only an ocean of deep gray in the sky. Vesper tilted her head to the side, still sneering. You're right. I don't. Nor do I care. Friendship is a convenient lie this poor country was founded on. In the end, ponies are still selfish by nature. The only truth in this world is power, and magic is power. Surely you can agree to that much. Twilight narrowed her eyes. She could feel her contempt for Vesper rising by the second. This girl was once Princess Celestia's student? Possible. Twilight shook her head. I didn't come here to discuss philosophy with you, however wrong yours may be. Vesper clicked her tongue. Pity. You seem like a smart filly, Sparkle. I was hoping to pick your brain for a little before business. Now, but if you insist on ditching your friends so quickly, then so be it. She pointed her hoof to Sunset. You, she snapped. Start walking forward, nice and slow. Sunset gave Twilight one more uncertain glance, into the center of the cavern. Razor approached her, a lace of irons in his claws. He then met in the middle, a razor tied to chain around Sunset's horn, holding it until it was completely covered and resembled just a lump of metal links. Not as effective as an inhibitor, but since I couldn't get my hooves on one with such short notice, it'll have to do. Vesper said, her eyes never leaving Twilight. As Razor led Sunset back to the end of the cave, a silver dagger drew itself from underneath Vesper's cloak, positioned itself underneath Sunset's neck. Don't worry. Vesper smirked into fear in Twilight's eye. I'm not going to kill her yet. I have some questions I want answered first. Now, the Tempest Crown, please. Twilight's eyes fitted between Vesper and Sunset. She tried to keep her breathing calm as possible, using Keen's technique without the hoof movements. It was enough to keep her focused, but not enough to stop her from panicking on the inside. She levitated the crown from inside her bag and held it aloft. Vesper's eyes gleamed with avarice. Now, right in the center of the room. Good girl. As Twilight released the crown, Vesper's red aura surrounded it, bright around her hooves. Finally. Now, princess. She looked up at Twilight, crimson eyes. Bear witness to the first part of my ascension! She lifted the crown and jammed it on top of her head, took a sharp, shuddering breath. Nothing happened. She stood in place, look of triumph slowly melting away. Razor running across her face. She shouted, What's going on? Why is it working? Twilight took quick aim and fired a suspended dagger, knocking it away from Sunset's throat. The spell then rebounded and struck Vesper across the cheek, causing her to stagger back. As he did, the crown toppled from her head and landed on the cave floor. A cat crying out to Sarah Ruby. What? Vesper's eyes bugged out of her head as he scooped up the broken crown, paying no attention to what was going on just a few feet in front of her. As soon as Twilight repelled the dagger, Sunset ducked low and delivered a powerful buck to Razor's chest, sending him flying across the cave into the back wall. Sunset then reached over and slammed her front hose into Vesper's side, launching her across the floor. Nice work, Applejack, Twilight said, hurrying to her side. Thanks, Flap, Sunset said with a drawl. Now, could you tell us way back to normal? This whole thing's still wearing me out. Just a second, Twilight said, watching as Vesper climbed back to her hose. She looked over at the broken crown, just a circle of metal with some wood teeth to it, and issued a small laugh. Ha! An illusion. Like many things in my life, it was just an illusion. She shook her head. I don't know what you're trying to accomplish. All you've done is send Sophie to death! A red spark shot out of her horn. Over Twilight's horn head, the spark raced fancy into the soaring sky. Razor! Get up, you useless bird! Vesper barked. She took a step towards Twilight Sunset, horn sparking with aggression. Twilight emitted a tiny spark of her own and watched from the corner of her eye as the illusion around Applejack melted away. Applejack pulled off the massive chain sitting on her head, a wooden cone falling out of the center. Yes, let's all dress up as Sunset Shimmer, Vesper said in a low, threatening tone. It's not like she needs her own identity or anything. It's not like everything else was stolen from her. I don't care how many illusions you cast, Sparkle. I will find that replica and add it to Tempest's crown. You're going to have to get through this first, Applejack said, running a hoof along the ground. Razor finally got to his feet and joined Vesper. What? We could be arranged. He drew his sword. Applejack! Twilight called as her horn released a piercing, sprinted flight to half the cavern. She heard Vesper and Razor yell. As she did, the luminescence seemed stunned. The hose and claws trying to rub spots in front of their eyes. Applejack pulled her face from the ground and, with the chain trailing behind her, ran at Vesper. She tackled her adversary with full force and rolled across the ground until they hit the back wall. Applejack maneuvered behind Vesper and pulled the chain around her horn as Vesper began bucking and firing off random spells. Twilight ducked under one of them. As she charged at Razor and released a powerful bolt of her own. Though still blinded, he swung his sword haphazardly, managing to deflect Twilight's attack. Near to Twilight's next spell, he swung one of Vesper's loose flares across the ceiling, raining rocks between Twilight and Razor. Rolling away, Twilight managed to avoid being crushed by a larger chunk of stone. She shook her mane free of the excess rubble and stared into the veil of dust that had risen. Nothing had been blockaded. She could still hear Applejack scuffle with Vesper, but the smoky wall was thick and impenetrable to the naked eye. Twilight took measured steps backwards and waited for Razor to emerge. Instead, a red shell of light struck her towards her, grazed her cheek, spying her wild leap. Before she could measure the wound, Razor came down at her, ball of fire in his claws. I forgot you could do that! Twilight threw up her shield in a panic, fighting the flames but still feeling the sweltering heat. Razor transitioned between slamming his sword against Twilight's shield and hurling fire at it. Twilight was confident in her ability to maintain her defense, but it was nothing doing to help with the overall situation. She took a glance behind Razor where the piles of rock lay. Careful subtly, Twilight lifted the biggest rock she could find and levitated closer. Her face nodded with determination and application as she fought to keep the shield up, while giving the rock one last burst of concentrated magic. It shifted from a slow cruise to a lightning-propelled bullet and smashed Razor in the back of the head, sending it to the ground in a crumpled heap. Twilight dropped her shield and raced towards Applejack. Sax parted the chain around Vesper's horn, though she was still able to produce weaker versions of her spells. Filthy vermin! Unhoof me this instant! Screamed, flailing her hose in Applejack's face. Applejack kept Vesper pinned down with her hose, while the chain hung in her mouth. She would yank the chain to the side anytime Vesper tried to shoot at her. But the act of trusting her up had come to a slow crawl. Keep her down, AJ! Twilight took the chain in her aura, leaving Applejack to pull her full weight against Vesper. Twilight wrapped the chain around a few more times around Vesper's horn, holding it tight before chaining up her hose. Vesper writhed and squirmed when Applejack stepped off for her, but was able to produce nothing more than a spark. She panted and her eyes blazed in Twilight's direction. I hate you! I can live with that, Twilight said tonelessly. She cast a thin purple veil around Vesper's head and watched her drift off to sleep. Well, Applejack began as he wiped the sweat from her brow, I could also say I didn't think it would work this well. We're not done yet, Twilight said. She dragged Razor over and used the remaining amount of chain to tie his claws together. I actually wish she had brought a real inhibitor ring, but my sleep spells to keep her inactive until everything's over. A roar like a manticore made both of them jump and rushed to the cave entrance. Both of the sky billowed with black clouds, and buckets of rain poured down. Another roar filled the sky, followed closely by a tongue of lightning. The wind picked up into a mighty gale. Applejack had to keep a hoof on Twilight's shoulder to keep her from flying away. You guys like this working? Applejack yelled over at Tempest. Let's hope so,